Hi everyone, and welcome to the webinar. I'm Chelsea from the Mills Fabrica team. Good to see everyone here, and I hope everyone is well. This is the fifth talk in our Combating COVID-19 webinar series. This is an exciting month. We have been bringing in different great speakers every week to share great insights and help us through these challenging times. In this webinar, we are going to talk about how you can play a role to help. Let's get started now. Let me welcome our host, Saadia, who is now working as a freelance presenter and producer for ImpactHK Radio Free. Hi, Saadia.
Hello and welcome to the webinar. I'm Saadia and I'm going to be looking after you during this next hour or so. I'm particularly keen on this particular webinar because I spent over 15 years working with charities and volunteers in the UK, and it was all to raise awareness of the work that they do and give you an insight into how we can help. So for instance, that time spent really tells me that this is a good webinar to do for you to find out a little bit about how you can help. Now, just before anything else, let's just put things in perspective at the moment. The screen that you see at the moment and the pictures, the world is in lockdown. Honestly, we cannot imagine, if somebody had mentioned this to us some time ago, we would never have imagined that we would be looking at scenes like this. There are no people, there is no noise, and there is no movement. And it's totally surreal what we are witnessing these days. Even Hollywood films cannot really compare to the types of things that we are seeing on our screens today. Next slide. But with all these changes, we are also seeing, we are also actually feeling that we would like to do something about it. Every time we look at those computer screens, every time we look at the TV or we read something, we ask ourselves, what can I do to make a difference? Who can I help? How can I help people? And will my help actually make any difference to anybody's life? Now, the one thing that is for certain in all this, next slide, is that COVID-19 does not discriminate, regardless of your background, your culture, your color, and whether you've got money or not, or whether you live in the lap of luxury, or whether you live in a cardboard box. The fact is that COVID doesn't discriminate. And that's what the kind of scary part of it is. Next slide. We are all feeling, because of that, we're all feeling quite fragile and frustrated and fed up. Some of us are coping very well and we're dealing with everything that's going on, but other times it's not as easy as that. For instance, the question I'm always asked, next slide, is the number of people actually who say to us that, you know, we're all in the same boat. All this COVID thing, everyone is going through the same thing at the moment. But I don't think so. I think actually far from it. We're not in the same boat. Everyone has different circumstances. So we need to be looking at those individual things. And this is really what today is all about. Next slide. Because really, for many people, it is about the basics. It's about food, shelter, and support. And for us, for many of us, I suppose what we think of is we just want to have a good Zoom connection and a good laptop and a good phone in order to survive. But for others, this is not the case. Hence this webinar today. Next slide. What we want to do today during this webinar is really try and give you an insight as to how you can help and the types of things that are going on across the world as well, really, as to how people are doing their little bit. It could be from volunteering, it could be from other things, it could be through donations. But my guests on this webinar are going to really be able to shed light on some of these things. Next slide. So I am going to be speaking to some specialists in the field who have got a great deal of expertise and knowledge and who have a great deal of experience in actually understanding what communities need. What we're going to be doing is I'm going to be speaking to 4 people. It's going to be Gurtin from Pathfinders, Jeff Rotmeyer from ImpactHK, Lai Shan from SOCO, and Him Lo from the Mills. And each one of them is going to tell me a little bit about their charity, about the type of work that they do, and how you can possibly make a difference to help them and to help your local community. So I'm going to kick off now and introduce Catherine Gurtin to start with. And I'd just like to say good evening to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Saadia.
And I'll hand over to you now to give us a little insight on Pathfinders.
Thank you so much, Saadia. So Chelsea, next slide, please. So these little faces represent our reason for being at Pathfinders. They are the most vulnerable and unsupported children in Hong Kong, and they sit at the heart of everything that we do. We exist to ensure that they are protected and respected, and to empower their mothers to find a bright path to a future in which they can survive and thrive. Next slide, please. Every case we support at Pathfinders is unique, but ensuring every child receives a fair start in life is universal. Foreign domestic workers are a critical source of support for many households in Hong Kong, and particularly those with young children like myself and elderly relatives. Despite legal protections, once a pregnancy is announced or discovered, many of these expectant mothers are unlawfully fired, pressured to leave or resign because they and their employers simply don't know what else to do. A pregnant foreign domestic worker faces substantial hardships when her employment is terminated. She immediately becomes homeless, and within 2 weeks, when her working visa expires, she loses access to public welfare and healthcare services which are vital for prenatal screening. Next slide, please. Every day at Pathfinders, we're dealing with preventable crisis. Headlines like these reinforce just how much more we need to do to prevent tragic and completely unnecessary infant deaths. Due to a fear of losing their jobs, many pregnant domestic workers try to conceal their pregnancy. Without seeking help, some end up having very risky, unassisted home births. Others resort to illegal abortions, dumping their fetuses in trash or public bathrooms. Hong Kong currently employs 390,000 foreign domestic workers, with the number forecast to increase to over 600,000 by 2047 to help care for an aging population in Hong Kong. Our fear at Pathfinders is that without fundamental systemic change, the problems that we tackle will likely escalate, and we'll only see more and more headlines like these. Next slide. Since 2008, we've served over 7,000 babies, children and women. We provide child protection, counselling, shelter, food, health, education and legal support. To try and prevent crisis, we also have empowered and educated over 62,000 people with greater awareness and understanding about maternity protections and obligations. Next slide, please. Our ambition by 2030 is for Pathfinders no longer to be needed, that every pregnant foreign domestic worker is able to maintain her employment, ensuring access to public services and 10 weeks of maternity leave. This would allow her to establish a stable and sustainable future for her child before returning to work. Many of the foreign domestic workers coming to Hong Kong are women of childbearing age, but coming from poor backgrounds, many of them lack reproductive health knowledge and a healthy perception towards love and relationships. By equipping foreign domestic workers with adequate knowledge on maternity protection and the importance of making well-informed decisions whilst they're working in Hong Kong, we're seeking to try and ensure every child born can receive a fair start in life and a well-planned future. Currently, challenges like the legal requirement for a foreign domestic worker to live in during her maternity leave, as well as a lack of affordable solutions for employers to cover the time that she's on maternity leave, contribute to a potential crisis. So we're also focusing on trying to influence systemic and policy change on key issues like these for the benefit of all stakeholders, the worker, the employer, and most importantly, the unborn child. Next slide, please. So in terms of how we're responding in this current environment, we're trying to pivot towards a new normal. This is a survey that we conducted last week with our beneficiaries to try and identify and respond to any gaps and needs that they're currently facing. Thanks to the wonderful generosity of our supporters, we've been able to ensure many of our beneficiaries have the protection items that they need, such as masks and hand sanitizers. But like many in Hong Kong, access to food is a key challenge for our beneficiaries. We're actively trying to find solutions and increasingly grateful to partners like Feeding Hong Kong for their help and support. In addition, essential items like milk and diapers are also greatly needed. Next slide, please. On delivering our services, we're also facing very significant challenges on multiple fronts. And the Pathfinders team has been wonderfully creative and very can-do in finding new ways to connect with and meet the needs of our beneficiaries through video calls and online outreach. Our social workers are still going into the community and supporting with appointments within the hospitals. However, limited shelter options, increasing costs of food, the inability for some of our mothers to fly home, the cost of airline tickets for those returning home, the closure of courts so we can't progress some legal matters that need assistance have created numerous challenges. And on top of this, in the face of all of this challenge, our single biggest challenge at the minute is fundraising. Despite tightening our belts and cutting our annual budget by 25% since the beginning of the year, increasing costs and an inability to hold our annual fundraising dinner, which accounts for 30% of our annual income, is a huge challenge. Next slide, please.
Okay, I think we're going to probably move on to the next guest. I think Catherine may have to just, once we can catch her again in the next bit, then she can recap some of her things. I'm going to hand over now to Jeff Rotmeyer, who's the founder of ImpactHK. Jeff, can you hear me? Hello, Jeff.
Hi there, I can. Yeah, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So we will come back. So I'll leave it to you to start your presentation then.
All right, great. Yeah, hopefully I won't have the same cutoff. I've written Catherine here on WhatsApp. Hopefully she'll be back with us shortly.
Yeah.
Can you see me? Am I on video?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, great. Hi everyone. Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me to take part in this, and yeah, I look forward to having a meaningful discussion with you guys. ImpactHK is a charity supporting the homeless in Hong Kong. I was introduced to the homeless community for the first time ever, roughly about 5.5 years ago. And it was basically a mate. He invited me to go to Sham Shui Po to feed the homeless. It was quite a shocking experience, and one that I'll never forget. It did stick with me. And, a couple of things really resonated with me that made me want to stand up and do something. And that started with just the ambition of inviting friends to go with me to that park one single night a month. And the aim of that was just simply to go into the park and serve people, just give people food, show people kindness, and that was it. And it was after about 4 or 5 months that we had a bit of an issue in that we had too many volunteers, which really gave us the opportunity to expand our ambition and go from doing it once a month to twice a month. Again, it became popular and we were able to expand to 4 times a month and then 8 times. And then, soon we were doing it every single day. And, to make a long story short, now we're on the streets about 100 to 120 times a month in different locations. And we're serving roughly about 8,000 meals a week on the streets throughout Hong Kong, serving the homeless, but also along the way, helping other people in need, like the street cleaners and the elderly. And really our approach on the streets, on these kindness walks, as they're called, is really to just get out there and show kindness to people. It's a very different approach than most organizations or charities. We don't force conversation or photograph people. We simply go out and show kindness to people. We really focus on earning trust on the streets. That's our key goal. And we can do that through repeated kindness because we see those same individuals, 3 to 6 times a week. And that earns trust because they slowly will learn that the only reason that we do that is because we care. And we can do it that often because we have roughly about 5,000 volunteers a year who are out there like an army, really making it a priority to care for these individuals. And once you've earned that trust, then they will come to our center, and that's where we have breakfast, lunch, dinner every single day. Laundry facilities, a movie to watch, clothing, necessities, hygiene products, etc. But really importantly, when they come to our center, that's when we can get to know these individuals on a one-on-one level and hopefully get the chance to develop a friendship. Because, you know, we really do understand, you know, when you're on the streets every single day working with these individuals, you see how alone these individuals are. You see how much they crave friendship. And, you know, as a charity, we really put that as our top priority. And when you're friends with a homeless person, you know, that sucks. That hurts. And, you know, you don't want that. So we can to help that individual by instantly providing them with shelter, and then also hopefully providing them with employment. And they work for our charity. So it's a pretty unique model in that these individuals are employed to be part of our program. And while they're working for us, their job is in helping homeless people, helping street cleaners, you know, serving them, cooking food for them. And it's a great job. You know, it's a job that they get to use their kindness and switch their focus from helping, like focus on, you know, what can I do for myself to get over this? Instead, they use their love and kindness to help people. And it really is a great piece of the puzzle. You know, and another thing that makes us different as a charity is we very much understand how housing and jobs do not solve homelessness. That's just not the reality, you know. So we really provide an incredible holistic program to further strengthen their opportunity for this new path. So we have counseling once a week. The counseling program is solely focused on their past. You know, it's expressing their past, hopefully understanding how that past played a role in their present, finding peace, which enables them to take a step forward. You know, having a very separate mentorship program, which has short-term, long-term goals, health goals, family, friendship goals, career goals. And really having that friendship plus those goals is something that gives them hope. And also having fun. You know, we have sport and art classes every single day. And really, I have to say, friendship is the key. And as a charity, we're very young. We just turned 3 years old, but we've had a pretty successful time. We've helped 170 people now off the streets mainly in the last 2 years, 170 people. You know, we are able to really get out there and really get some instant results, mainly because we just have so many caring volunteers, donors, just an incredible organic humanitarian movement. And it really is, it's quite a special time, I think. We're capable of really saving a lot of lives at this time because of that. You know, in terms of what you can do if you're interested in, you know, volunteering or helping out with ImpactHK, I think we just offer a very wide range. You know, every day we have volunteering activities still ongoing. You can sign up through our website calendar. You know, of course, financial donations, you know, of course you need that. You know, if you're looking for a more tailor-made volunteering opportunity, we have a lot of great volunteers who, you know, express interest in helping, and we can kind of, on a one-on-one, we can kind of figure out what that person's talents and passions are, and we can give them ownership of a specific project that they want to really help take ImpactHK and our support for the homeless to another level. We're really quite organic as a charity, going into the education system, into job creation. Just we're kind of a multifaceted group, and you know, the more people that are involved in this, the better. So I look forward to maybe having a bit of a discussion. If you guys have any questions about ImpactHK, I'd love to have a chat. And I look forward to learning along with you today. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Jeff. That was amazing, some of the things that you're doing. Okay, should we go on to the next slide? We're going to be joining Pathfinders. We'll go back to Catherine later on, just as soon as we've talked to all the guests, and we can get a little recap from Catherine just then. But now let me go over to my next guest, Ji Lai Shan, she's a community organizer at SOCO. Hello, Ji.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Okay. Hello.
Hello. So we can start now?
Go ahead. It's all yours.
This is Missy from SOCO. So thank you for inviting me to join in this meeting. SOCO was founded in 1971, and we serve the underprivileged in Hong Kong. And most of these people, they are elderly, they are grassroots workers, single-parent families, or those impoverished children, and those people, they are living in inadequate housing, such as cage home, cubicles, rooftop, or even some of them they're homeless. So we are not only doing the direct service, but also we advocate for the policy change. So hope to help people, they can, more people, they can change their living conditions or standard of living. And so actually at ordinary, we at already time, we already have many people there. They don't have, their income is low, or they don't have enough food for their living, or children don't have enough support for their learning. But because of the COVID-19, the virus, there are more people that suffer. We will find actually those underprivileged, they suffer the most because they lack of resources. They even lack of the information and this kind of thing. So we do quite a lot of work to help these people to overcome under this period. So maybe next please go to next one, next slide. And then we see actually we do we raised call for the public to donate their protective gears such as masks or the sanitizer, and then also and even the voucher to buy food, or the we give them food voucher, and also some of them they need them cash need to pay for the rent, kind of, or some of the children they need to have the computer or internet to go to work, they study because they need to study at home, something like that. And we also deliver these kind of items in either in our center. So they will we divided them to come to a different kind of time because you cannot gather too many people at all. And then some of them will deliver to their home, to their cage home, or subdivided because some of them they are not living near to our center, or they are old and not able to come. So we go to the street to deliver to the homeless. Yeah, and also we cooperate with Lee Hazen Foundation to conduct spreading dramatic is to kill iris, a kind of a new innovation about technology to kill the virus in the cage home and cubicle. So we have over 1,000 households. Yeah. And then we also have advocacy work to advocate to the government to have measures to help this family. They are either in learning resources, or even their the protection gears, or the job opportunity, or even the racial discrimination. You know, in this period, there's also there are people. They have many discrimination against those from mainland or from China. These kind of things. Yeah. And so what our kind needs, so we can go to next. Actually, we find actually those are we just really sad to see actually people they don't have enough meals, and they hungry. They tell us, and they feel frustrated because they lost their job, and they need to use the mask for over 2 weeks, and then they wash them and they hang it in their corridor or the next bed, these kind of things. So and children they feel very frustrated because the other students they are on classes, they have the computer, and they cannot have on class online, and they're so worried about they can catch up with their curriculum or not. And so actually they will need much helping hand in helping them for their protection from antivirus, or even the about the they are looking for jobs, or their or others when they have need protective gears, or their computers, or SIM card, this kind of thing. So we are also calling for this, and so this creates much of work because before that we have many volunteers for us. But you know, in this kind of period, we cannot call many volunteers to come to our office or come with us to work, because you need to protect the volunteer and cannot gather too many people. So, we, the social worker, need to pick up the work by ourselves most time, and so we have more workload. And then, but at the same time, there are many problems from the family. They feel inside this kind of things, and we know we need to cheer up them, to counsel them, and so they are much more worse. And besides, because of the virus, we need to cancel the fundraising activities. So we also encounter the financial problems, the fundraising. Yes. So what can you help? So maybe next slide we can see actually for the LD, or for the homeless, or for the poor families and children, they will need masks for them to protect, because some of the elderly, they need to go to the clinic, to hospital, and or some of them they need to go to work, and then their employer, they don't provide masks. And actually we find many kinds, they queue up for whole day to get only 5 masks, and or they repeatedly use the same mask. Yeah, it's very sad. So we hope more people, they would donate masks. And besides, we need the computer for the online learning for the children, and we need the voucher, the supermarket voucher, food voucher for the people to have enough food or daily necessity. And we also raise fund for the emergency financial support. Some of them, they already own the rent, or some of them even they kicked out by the landlord because they cannot pay for the rent. So we need to immediately help them. Or even some of them, they lost their job, and then they need to go to interview to find a job. They don't have a transportation free. So we also pay for them to do this kind of thing. And then the other is also they need if you have jobs to introduce or have training opportunity, we are welcome you to introduce. And we also network some employer to help them to introduce their job opportunity for them. And so far we already have some of them find some job. Yeah. So I think so we are welcome any help from you. Yeah. And then so I think the next is, you can see there we have contact and the website. So you can go to our website to make donation to help the people. And also you can go to the website to understand more about SOCO's work. Yeah. So can you have the last one? Yeah, this is I think the assistant we asked before and tell you before. Yeah. So this is some of the items or the amounts we need. Actually, so far we helped around 5,000 households, is around over 10,000 people to either deliver the mask or computer or find a job or give them the emergency unemployment fund, this kind of things. And also, of course, we need volunteers, yeah, to help to deliver items, or even sometimes just for setting up the computer, because some people, they don't have computer. We need to set up here to check it whether it's suitable. They equip with for example, the room, or they have enough memory, this kind of things. Yeah, we need volunteers. Yeah. Yeah. So so maybe we turn to the last one. Yeah. So you can see the website, and we have the QR code. You can scan it for more information, or you can have make donation to help these people. They are the poorest people in Hong Kong. Actually, these people, they most of them, they said they don't want to receive any items or cash. They want to have a ability to, or the opportunity to work for themselves, to earn their living by themselves. Yeah. So so we also hope they will be recover of the society, and they will get opportunity. And actually, for example, we also create some job. For example, we organize around 100 women, and they are good at sewing, and then so we sew the cotton mask for the poor people. So at the same time, the underprivileged women, they can earn some subsidy and for their children or their family, and at the same time they will be cotton mask, and they can use for longer time, not only just on-off use a mask. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Leishan. That was again amazing stuff that you're doing, and we are going to be looking back at some of the things there. But thank you very much for that. I'm going to hand over now to Himlo, and he can tell me a little bit more about some of the work he does on the ground. Hello, Him.
Hey, hi everyone. Yes, it's been great to be here, and it's very good to hear quite a lot of meaningful projects. I've been following like Impact Hong Kong and SOCO for years, and a good chance to get more information about what they are working on in their project. It's so respectful, and I am working at the Mills place in Tsuen Wan under the Nanfeng group, and we actually in this period of time, personally, I think it's such a stressful time for all of us, maybe a little bit panic, but it's quite clear, I think, in personal level, what we can do for ourselves, to the world. So I think it's clearly this time of COVID-19, the world sent us a very important message, which we have to change our lifestyle in coming years, or how we live in the world, how we can communicate to the world. So in this period of time, I mean, for myself, how to make myself physically and mentally healthy, I try to pick up like drawing skills, to do some images, to make myself climb. And in our project, like for this, I did this image. It's like a message from the world. And next slide maybe is how we can listen to the world. Because obviously from this like COVID-19, there are quite a lot of other issues bring out from this period of time. And in long term, what can we change to form a better platform or lifestyle habits to help the world, also ourselves. So before any public planning or big planning, I'm thinking how I can keep myself more peaceful. And it's a good time for me to think what's next in my project at the Mills. So recently, we are actually in this period of time, we connect with like different kind of NGOs and organizations to plan long-term activities or learning programs, how to engage more people to focus on our daily life habit, or how we can work with NGO under their issue to deliver more meaningful programs. One of the group recently we get in touch with is a local architect group called One by Social, and they are working with another local group called Zaadia. Both of them, they've been working on local community programs and planning, also upcycling and sustainability program. So what they are planning now at the moment is they are trying to form more platform to share food for local people who live in the vines. They are looking for some kitchen factory and food factory. So you can see here, that's the project. And see, they want to collect more food. And what we are trying to do with them is to create more platform or pickup point for people who need to come to get food. But you know, as you know, people who need to get food, they mostly food is not, I mean, it's not enough, because when they eat, we are trying to plan if there is more program beside of food, then they can get more like activities or support from this kind of event. So when they come to get food, is it any other need they need in their daily life? So we're trying to form a space for this project to gather more people who need food to come to get food they need, and also activities for them to hang out or to solve their daily life issues. So like this kind of project, we are trying to build a platform with NGO and organization which they are working on how, as the Mills, how we can collaborate with different kind of organization to express those messages. I think at the moment, this situation, we have to realize we don't live by ourselves. We have to work together. We are trying to find our location and our identity or our role to get into this kind of project and to collaborate with different kind of organizations to make the world better. This is what we are trying to do. Thank you. Looking forward to the discussion section.
Thank you. That was very good. Thank you very much, Him. Lots of very interesting things coming up there, and we are going to be talking about some of the things. I think everyone's really said some amazing stuff that's going on. Let me just move on now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually call back Catherine Gurtin, who was, I'm afraid, suddenly stopped by technical problems. But Catherine, are you there?
I am. I'm so sorry. I thought maybe I'd overtalked, so I was cut off.
No, we certainly didn't kick you out. I think it was just gremlin in the system. But what you can do, Catherine, is perhaps you could give us a quick, maybe just a quick sort of summary, a little bit, just to introduce, just in case somebody's joined us after, just a quick bit about Pathfinders, and then, you know, go ahead and you can finish off your presentation.
Thank you so much. So yeah, sorry about my connection. One of the joys of working from home. So yeah, Pathfinders, we basically ensure that the most marginalized and vulnerable children born in Hong Kong and their migrant mothers are protected and respected. We've been in operation for over a decade now, and over that time we've supported over 7,000 or almost 7,000 babies, women and children. We simply couldn't do what we do without the incredible support of the community, individuals, corporates, foundations, and others. And so I think I'll just summarize in terms of, you know, how you can help. And I know the ask is the same for many NGOs across Hong Kong. And I think I can speak on behalf of all of us to say that we are so grateful for the incredible response of the community to organisations like ours, stepping in to help us in what can only be described as an unprecedented challenge. You know, I was explaining earlier that, you know, for every day for us at Pathfinders is a crisis. We have someone walk through our doors who's lost a job and is pregnant and is in need of help. But this crisis has definitely exacerbated the challenges that we face every day in terms of meeting the needs of our beneficiaries and the children that we serve. So my ask in terms of help, you can help all NGOs. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have with multiple funders, whether they be corporates or foundations, is that the funding that they give to us is very generous, but often it's very restricted, has lots of kind of conditions and demands, or maybe is just for a year. And so one of the things that all NGOs are asking for is just greater trust, greater flexibility of existing commitments to ensure that we can pivot to meet the needs of our beneficiaries, and renewed commitments. At Pathfinders, as I said, you know, crisis is not new for us. We deal with it every day. But we are operating in an environment where it is increasingly more challenging to meet the needs of our beneficiaries. And really for us, it's about awareness. You know, a lot of our work is about trying to prevent the crisis as much as it is about responding to the crisis. So people knowing that we exist, knowing how to protect themselves, knowing their maternity rights is key. So really for us, having some digital volunteers that are liking us on Facebook or other social media platforms that are sharing our posts is key. Donations, I was mentioning that fundraising for us is a real challenge despite having cut our budgets by 25% since the beginning of the year. Our annual fundraiser, which brings in 30% of our income, is unlikely to happen. So donations, like everybody else, are vital, whether that's one-off or a regular monthly donation, which is super, super helpful for us as an organisation. Our beneficiaries are in need of milk for those that can't breastfeed. We support breastfeeding, but if they can't, then we do provide formula. Milk, diapers, those sorts of supplies are critical. And as I said, volunteering, helping us spread the word is so critical. Thank you, Saadia, and sorry about dropping off earlier.
That's all right. Thank you very much. Some amazing work being done across the board. If everyone wants to switch on their cameras now, we can certainly put on the cameras for a few moments anyway. But I just wanted to summarize a little bit that some of the things that are sort of coming across here, everyone had some amazing things to say about their charities, really, and the work that you are doing. You know, a lot of, I think I'm just jotting down words here which summarize some of the things, and really things like trust, dignity, self-esteem, raising awareness are all the prominent things that are coming out. And it looks like everyone really, the whole COVID experience has changed the way we look and see things. I've put a slide up there about kindness, because that seems to be the underlying thing that everyone has been talking about in terms of how to be friendlier, how to be more generous, how to be more considerate, to be able to do the jobs that you are doing at the moment. I think in terms of the whole fundraising angle, that seems to be the main thing that everyone is obviously finding suddenly a real challenge. But also, I suppose it's just that communication with people. I wanted to just touch upon a few of the things that I've seen. We can talk in detail in a few moments, but let me just change the mood slightly and move across to things that I've noticed. Is that something there? Okay, some of the acts of kindness that I've been following on the TV, and I'm sure you've seen some of these things as well. Can I have the next slide, right? You may have all seen some of the things that are coming from across the world. For instance, in Naples, they were from balconies, they were lowering food baskets. And it was basically, you could take food or you could leave food for people who didn't have enough food. Again, an initiative that was just done on a personal level, but a lovely thing that I saw, and I thought I must kind of just tell people about it. And also, next slide. We also had this situation where obviously where people, because communication seems to be key in everything, and how do you reach those people when there is social distancing or a lockdown? And one of the initiatives that started in Ireland was they actually started to put green papers on the wall, on the windows, to show that they were okay and there wasn't any problem. And if they changed it to a red paper, then that meant that they were in trouble and they needed food or they needed help. And so this is something that sort of, I think even printing companies were sending these out for free to everybody. So that's a great initiative too. Moving on, next slide. Obviously, we've already heard from you guys in terms of the wonderful work that's being done on the ground, and Feeding Hong Kong came into the conversation as well. And I think obviously they're doing an amazing job trying to get food to people. Lots of people have been lots of retailers have been handing out here in Hong Kong free masks to people. In Turkey also, there was a situation where they were actually putting parcels of food down onto the road, and people were just picking up as they needed it, and no questions asked. And again, it goes back to, I'm sure, you know, Jeff, you can identify with that in terms of the whole thing about dignity and self-esteem, and people just not really wanting to identify themselves. And I think you know, Lai Shan, you mentioned it too, that, you know, at the end of the day, people want to have jobs. They would rather do things themselves. They don't necessarily want to have cash given to them or help, because everyone has their own dignity. Going on to the next page, the other thing that is obviously a prominent thing is that somebody was saying about, you know, where they have rent and if they're on lockdown or they don't have a job. This was just one text message that somebody was sent, this is probably in the UK, from their landlord, to say that, listen, don't worry about the rent at the moment. I'm more concerned about you, and we are living in crazy times. But just that in itself is quite amazing that somebody can actually do that. Because, you know, we think about what we can do sitting in our own homes, or what we can do with people that we know. And sometimes it is very much just about reaching out to somebody, giving them a call, talking to them, because there are a lot of people who don't have anyone at this stage to talk to. And I'm sure all of you in every discipline that you are in can identify with that. And next slide. One of the most amazing stories that I have seen so far is, I'm sure you may have heard of it already, but there's a 99-year-old war veteran who was due to be celebrating his 100th birthday the day after tomorrow, on the 30th. And so he vowed that what he would do, he'd had a hip replacement. He'd spent a reasonable amount of time in hospital with NHS nurses in the UK. And he vowed that for every day until he reached 100, he would try and raise £1,000 for NHS nurses by walking to and fro with his Zimmer frame in his garden and just walking back and forth every day. And this gentleman only wanted to raise 1,000, and his total amount raised at the moment has come to 29 million pounds. I can't believe 29 million pounds. And he still has another couple of days before he is 100. So it'd be really interesting to see what he ends up with. But that,
he's just topped the charts as well with a single with
yes. He's got a record as well.
I love this. I love this story.
Amazing. What an amazing man, and what an amazing initiative. I think certainly every single one of you has mentioned the whole thing about fundraising, and I'm sure quite a few of you have had fundraising dinners delayed, or not delayed, but cancelled. So I'm sure everyone is in sort of dire straits at this moment. And I hope our participants who are listening in at the moment, I'm going to move on now to our next slide, just to get everyone, you've got everyone up here right now. And I just really want to start, you know, I've mentioned some of the things that we were talking about in terms of some of the initiatives that people are doing globally. But I'd like to just really talk to each one of you a little bit about some of the things that you feel like we've all experienced now COVID-19. And I want to really ask you as to, for yourselves and as individuals and as charities, what do you think is the one thing that is going to change now in the way that you do your work? So for instance, if I ask you, Lei Shan, first.
Oh, yeah. I think for myself, I keep on more work before my work role. Yeah, but now it's even more work role crazy, because some people, they were saying, oh, you will should have time to take a rest. I said, no, I have more work than before. Although before already working 7 days, but now it's even not only 7 days, maybe almost every day is midnight. Yeah, and then we have more cases. We need to even ourselves, we are afraid of virus, but we need to overcome and then comfort the people so that even with their virus, no worry, and we're still alive and we can overcome. And even the colleagues, because we need to balance the safety of the colleagues and But of course, I'm the one to force my colleagues to go to the cage home, give a call, even in the crisis time, or even the government said that no more gathering than 4 people, but we need to do that. And besides, actually, in this kind of hard time, people, they need more communication, actually.
Yeah, so communication is
but they
vital.
are afraid to communicate with or to contact with people, and so we need to ignore the virus sometimes. So sometimes even they need to face to face. So we go to face to face with them.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
sometimes they don't use online, or then so they need a face to face to sit down to talk with them, give them some voucher or food or cash, this kind of thing. We need to do that. And
Okay.
but we, of course, we lucky because some of them they have WhatsApp, and then so we have many groups, and then so we can talk with them. And so I don't know, even Sunday very late, come 11 p.m. and then my mother, I'd have a dinner, and mother said, oh, you still need to reply to WhatsApp.
So too much
we
work.
need to-
So really, for you, it is the day is just, the week is not long enough. You need more time.
yeah, we need more time.
Let me move on and ask Jeff as well. Jeff, what
even
would you say?
word or, but I think it's happy because I feel you really give them little comfort or little company.
Sure.
You can help them because they feel comfort, and I think I will think myself I'm lucky.
Yeah.
Because
So
in
communication is vital then for you. Okay,
because
can I move on? Can I move on to Jeff now? Jeff, what would you say is the one thing that you would want to change now?
Yeah, it's been an interesting time. Just to put in context, before the virus, at our space, the guest room, for lunches and dinners, we would serve about 75 individuals every meal. And currently right now, we're serving up to 300 for each meal.
Wow.
We haven't stopped during this entire time. It's a really busy time. And what happened during this time is that McDonald's actually closed, which, about 500 people rely on that fast food restaurant for safe shelter every night. And McDonald's closed, and all of these individuals then were put onto the streets. And, that really, as you highlighted in many cases, this outpouring of kindness in the community. And we really were fortunate enough to have so many people, so many kind people support. And we instantly took action. And in that 10 days following from that, we raised a good amount of money, and we've helped roughly about 56 people in basically 2 weeks into shelter. And it was and really to put things in context, in our first 2 years, we housed a little over 100 individuals. And in that 2-week period, we housed almost 50. And it was a really, it was a huge undertaking. It was stressful. It was a difficult decision, but actually it really kind of opened my eyes up to taking immediate action is actually one of the best things we can do.
And you were able to, you were flexible enough to do that, which is fantastic. Flexibility has come in there as well. Catherine, can I move on to you too and ask you?
Yeah, I mean, what's going to change? We're trying to, in the face of crisis, we don't think it's what about the crisis, it's how you respond. And so we're trying to be opportunistic, for want of a better word. We're trying to embrace digital technology. A lot of what we do in trying to prevent the crisis from happening is outreach and education. So we're trying to embrace to other points the communication. So we're trying to do many more sort of online outreach.
So again, back to communication.
Yeah, and it's very difficult with the foreign domestic worker community at the minute because many of them are not getting their days off. So we're trying to embrace technology more. We have wonderful ambassadors within the community who go out on our behalf to educate the community. So we're doing as much as we can with them digitally. So yeah, we're trying to respond to the new normal and try to embrace the change to do even more in terms of our outreach.
Well, I think communication seems to be the key there. I think now we'll move on. We'll go over to the question and answer. I realize that time is moving on. Shall we go over to the question and answer? I just want to ask one question, actually, just to kick it off. But if we do have any questions, please do pass them on to us. And I wanted to ask, really, how can somebody volunteer? Because lots of people are at home at the moment. Is there for each one of you, is there some way that somebody can help you by volunteering at home? Is there a way to volunteer at home? Right, Jeff, do you want to tell me whether there's any way that somebody can volunteer for you?
Yeah, we're creating companies, so we're creating more job creation opportunities. So just for example, we've just started a new brand, Kindness Matters merchandise. We have also a coffee. We've rebranded a coffee, so we have our own coffee now that we're selling. So, there's a lot of opportunities in social media work. We're creating a Kindness Matters club at the moment, which is, supporting small businesses, also getting our volunteers an opportunity to get discounts at these things, bridging that, and then also raising more awareness for ImpactHK. We have a lot of opportunities. It just depends on the individual, what they would like to work on. And I like to really give them
quite a few things that they could be involved in. Great. I'm going to move back to Him Lo, actually, because I didn't see him on the screen, just to make sure he was there. I was just going to ask you as to how things have changed. You actually mentioned a number of things that you are changing now at the Mills in terms of types of events, types of initiating. Any one particular thing that you would like to stress there?
Yeah, sure. Because the situation now, it reflects quite a lot of issue which has been happening in our city for a long period of time. For example, like so-called, they've been running like photo exhibition or about the separate room or the living issue, or for example, like Impact Hong Kong, which I've seen quite a lot of their activities on Facebook, which they go out to reach homeless people or jobless people, like this kind of things. What we are trying to tackle is it's all about the policy. For sure, in this period of time, we all think how to help people immediately. But in long term, how can we go into the policy to make the differences? Yeah,
things. That's right.
Yeah, like this kind of things.
Yeah. Also, while I'm talking to you, can I ask you as to how anyone could help you, or could anyone volunteer and do something to help you online?
I think online we are not working on that like volunteer work at the moment, but we are trying to keep the space safe, and very important part is education platform. For sure, that's what I mean. We get into different kind of NGO and try to understand what kind of issue they're working on, and in our role, how can we plan a better platform for those NGO or organization
I think you've
to run the program.
I think the Mills have done it right here by actually initiating this webinar to actually get
yeah.
So you're halfway there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
okay.
I think that's very good chance to know more about different kind of organization.
Sure. Thank you very much. Great. Catherine, can I ask you too how anyone could help you online?
Yeah, digital volunteers. So liking our social media, sharing our posts with the network. We actually have an online yoga session taking place for foreign domestic workers and employers on Sunday. So you can go to our Facebook page and sign up for that. And signing up for our newsletter, and just talking to people about the work that we do. I think the more that people are aware that Pathfinders is existing and is there to help, the more that we can help those that are in desperate need of assistance.
That's good. And Laishan, how about you? How can someone help you online?
It's quite difficult, but we still have some we need help. Is, for example, actually we have some volunteer. Sarah just helped me to make up the PowerPoint actually this time actually, and then for example we need to call for donation of some items, and so as the volunteer I write a red text. She says it's too long. I help you to make it as a beautiful leaflet, sometimes nice. And besides, for example, recently there were some people that asked me, do you have a translation, the English version of your research report recently about the COVID impact on the classroom? I said, no, I don't have manpower. So maybe you have someone can read Chinese and then translate to English. That would be helpful for us. Yeah. So and besides, actually, we need volunteer to maybe they're in our WhatsApp group, and then to communicate with their children about their homework and talk with them, this kind of things. Yeah, they still have some room online. Although most of the time we need people they come to our center or go with us. Yeah.
Yeah. So I suppose volunteers are something that you all need. You all need potential volunteers. You all need money. You all need donations of, you know, certainly there's lots of food possible donations that people could do with. Can I ask you, just very briefly from each one of you really, do you think that COVID, you know, it has stirred up a lot of emotions. It has made us think differently. But do you think that once it is over, people will just kind of go back, or do you think they've changed now? Do you think we've changed as individuals and as organizations now once we've experienced COVID? Catherine, first of all, can I ask you?
I'm a hopeful optimist, so I always hope that we're going to come through this a much stronger, more resilient, more compassionate, kinder community. And I think we're seeing that in spades at the minute, and long may it continue.
Sure. And that we will be different people. Himlo, what do you think?
I think after this period of time, I think it's good if we can change the habit of life, at least the way we use like plastic or like this kind of things. Also, the like what I just mentioned, like the healthy system, the policy about like poor people, like this kind of living issue. I think that's a long-term issue which we should we can't wait until next time, because for sure next time will come in some period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Shan, what do you think? Do you think we've changed?
Yes, actually, I think the children before they said they say holiday, but now they want to go to school.
It's a major achievement, isn't it?
I think, and also I think it's more also and we about the housing problem is more obviously because the virus and you don't catch home cubicle, there are many people co-living in one small space.
Yeah.
And you have a quarantine, and then they need the one, and then they will affect each other. So this is really the government need to take attention or pay attention for that, and the people, they also now aware of this kind of problem, and they need to change their habit or this kind of thing, and more people pay attention. And besides we find actually the school, they stopped the class, but actually they did not prepare for those poor children. So once they are online learning and then online classes, those underprivileged children, they cannot catch up with because they don't have computer, they don't have those internet. So I think the government need to change the policy and then have enough resources for these children. Otherwise, they will make the gap between the poor and the rich and the poor even bigger. Because of COVID,
Yes, absolutely. And you can't see Jeff on the screen, but Jeff, what would you say? What's your response? Is he still there?
Yeah,
I'm here. I echo Catherine's sentiments as well. I think you're gonna see a lot of positives after this, and we've seen just an incredible outpouring of care and because of these challenging times, and thank goodness for that, because we do think that the homeless population in Hong Kong will most likely double this year. It is quite a scary time with the amount of job loss that we've seen, and with those apartment rents being that high, it is quite a scary time. And thankfully, we can now. We've learned a lot as an organization. We've strengthened during this time, and we'll just continue attacking. And it's going to be an interesting year for sure.
Okay, I've just got one question coming through from Lou Reed, who says, I'm interested in hearing from Z whether she has seen more cases within the underprivileged community of COVID-19. We don't hear about it in the media, but has she seen COVID cases spreading more than in general society?
Luckily, we find only a few cases from our kind. They really suffer from the COVID. So far is touch wood. Most of them, they still stay healthy. I hope stay forever and healthy people and all the people. Still. And I think people, they are poor, but I think they also concerned about their healthy and the hygiene. And so some of them in cage home or in cubicles. We are doing the research. Most of them, they said their landlord, they don't do any cleaning for them, but they do their cleaning by themselves to do more, keep more, and take care about each other more most of the time. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't think we have any other questions as yet. And he said, great to hear that. Thank you very much. That's from Lou. Thank you. I'd just like to thank you all very much for your time today. We've run over a little bit, but thank you. It was really useful. And obviously all the details of, the recording of this, I think Chelsea is going to come back in a minute. But from me, thank you very much to Catherine and to Jeff and to Himno and to Z. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, Chelsea here. Just want to thank you all for joining us today. Some great insights and information. Hope you all found it useful. Thanks to everyone who participated, including our great guests. If you'd like to access to the recording of the webinar again, we will send you a link by email along with the blog post. If you want to learn more about the Mills Fabrica and our future great events, please subscribe to our newsletter and follow us on social media. Our next webinar is on 5th May. Join us for a special fireside chat with Mr. Anthony Leung, CEO of Namfung Group. He will be sharing his valuable insights on leadership in difficult times and his experience in leading the government and financial institutions through crisis situations. Hope to see you again. Thank you.